What's going on, YouTubers, gamers and fellow hobbyists? Welcome to this little review of my recent Alone Against the Flames purchase by Chaosium Fiction. It's for the game Call of Cthulhu 7th edition rules it's using. It's a solo adventure for the Call of Cthulhu 7th edition quick start rules. It says that, and it's got, in my eyes, it's got pluses and minuses, so we'll start with the minuses. I would say money-wise, and you can get this on like eBay or wherever, or even from Chaosium itself, and it'll vary from between £8 and £13. Is that worth it for this? No, I don't think so. The reason is it's such a small adventure. It's you're through it in no time at all. When you compare it to the likes of the fighting fantasy ones, so that's a little niggle. And there's a couple of places where I felt the choices that you make sometimes didn't make the most sense when it's kind of looping back on itself to like go back to a location, or if it's asking if you've done something before. But so that's the negatives. But the pluses, it's a great story and it's a great introduction to a Call of Cthulhu. And it's a great rule learning tool. It's specifically designed to teach you the rules. Obviously not all the rules, but just to get started with it, enough to get going. And it works really well. I mean, you get your character sheet in there, and that's nice. There's also a map in here as well, if I can find it. Probably not, but there's a map of where you end up, where the main part of the game. The game, it revolves around you leaving your hometown, like your local town, and heading off to the big wide world. And you've got a nice job in the city of Arkham, and the job will be chosen by you at some point during the adventure, early on, obviously. And so it's up to you to decide what you're going to Arkham for, like whether you're going to be a doctor or a journalist or whatever. You've got the choices there. Now, I appreciate that it's got to be a bit limited on certain choices you can make. Whereas if you're playing Call of Cthulhu, the role-playing game, you could be anything, like any role-playing game. It's you get the idea, but it's good for going through if you haven't got a group. I don't have a group at the moment. My role-playing buddies are off with real life stuff. They're actually pursuing job opportunities in London right now. So so I'm left to my own devices. Well, me and one other. So I found it really good. I've been through it myself. I've played it for my wife and one other person. For the other people, I just read obviously the descriptions and the choices and let them make their decisions. And I found myself getting into the roles of the characters as well, like putting on the accents and all that kind of thing. I found it very good. It's creepy. It's definitely Call of Cthulhu. There's no question of that. It's creepy enough. It's a little predictable, yes. But bear in mind, it is designed to teach you the rules to get going. It says you need the quick start rules. You don't really need them. It's just more handy for you if you have them. I happen to just have the other rule books on standby. It's the only thing I really needed it for was calculating like the halves and the 1/5 of the character stats to put on there. That was all I really needed it for. So I've been through it a couple times. Say my wife's been through it. One other person has been through it, and it's been a kind of a different game each time. But obviously, it's going to have its limitations, and there's going to come a point where it's going to be just more of the same. But for what it's designed for, which is teaching rules, works superbly. Really does. I recommend it. I do recommend it for anyone thinking of getting into Call of Cthulhu. It's a little pricey for what it is, I think, but it's a more fun way of learning the rules and mechanics of the game, which are quite simple, but sometimes it's easier to go through actual situations rather than read a rule book, because sometimes that can just bog you down with rules and statistics, and before you know, if you're anything like me, your mind starts like melting and what's going on. I've been lucky because I've had time to absorb and digest the rules in the past, but this, they could do with this sort of thing in other games as well. I feel it's good. It's, some games will give you a like a mini playthrough of like a very brief section of a game with some make-believe players. You just read through that and that'll give you a sort of idea. But this is actually you actually doing the game itself, and it takes you through as you go. You're building your character as you go. Literally from the very start, all you need is this, a piece of paper, a pencil, whatever, and some dice. That's all you need. Don't need anything else. Don't need to read anything beforehand. You don't need to make your character beforehand, because it'll tell you as and when to roll your stats up. Roll your stats, write them down. It tells you everything step by step, and you're kind of designing your character and fleshing it out as you go before you set off on your journey, as it were. Yeah, so like I say, it revolves around you going to the city of Arkham, but it's a bit cliche, it's predictable. You break down in the city of Emberhead, where, you know, and spoiler alert coming up, so if you don't want to know what happens to you, switch off now. Just give you a few seconds to do that. Okay, where they try sacrificing you to their gods. And yes, it is possible to get out. I did manage it. My wife did not. And the other person did not. It's just luck. A lot of it is luck. But it is a fun game. It's a fun story. And like I say, it's a creepy enough story to be classified as Call of Cthulhu. It's definitely Call of Cthulhu. It's got a very Stephen King-esque feel about it. The town is very creepy. People are a bit creepy. You know, it's good. I recommend it. It's just a little pricey for what it is when you compare it to the likes of Final Fantasy, because for your money you get, like, you know, twice the game and the gameplay in a Final Fantasy book. And I'm picking on Final Fantasy just out of the air because that was one of the first books of that nature I had. But there it is. That's Alone Against the Flames by Chaosium. So that's my little review. Thanks for watching. Remember, all brushes lead to war. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now, folks. Bye-bye.